Right. In that case, I'd like to start with introduction. I would like everyone, so that's 4 players right now, right?
Yes.
To tell me their preferred name, their role, um, and what their individual goal is. What are you trying to achieve? Why are you in a team? Why are you here? And I'm going to start. Kuro, as half of you already know. I'm looking to become the coach, and I'm looking to improve myself as well in coaching. That's why I'm here. Um, and I enjoy seeing others improve. I very much enjoy uh, making others better than they are right now. Now, I'd like to go from top to bottom in the Discord channel in that order.
So me then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm food paper or food or Sasha or whatever, probably food. I'm the main support and my goal is to have fun and get better.
Okay.
Oh yeah, me. Yeah, I'm Kevin. In case you don't know, I'm the flex support. Yeah, I play flex support, and I'm here to build on team synergy, understanding more comms, and just having fun in general. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and to grow as an individual in the process.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Nemesis. I am the hit scan slash like main DPS of the team. I'm here to improve at the game and also experience sort of Overwatch in a different manner than just solo queuing into comp.
Right.
Yep. My name's Payne, or Photon Stone, whichever, and I would say my goal is to improve as a player, like everyone else, and to basically, enter tournaments and to do well in those tournaments. Basically, as far as ladder goes or ranked, I don't really enjoy that, but I do enjoy, working as a team. I'm very much a team player, and I enjoy learning more about the macro side of the game.
Right. Okay. I said what I wanted to start with is talk about what you want to achieve together. You said you didn't talk about that, so I'd like to start with that. Most of you said improvement.
Right.
Now, how serious do you want to take that improvement? Like, how often are you willing to practice? How much energy do you want to put into that practice? What are you willing to do outside of playing the game in ranked and in scrims? I mean, I suppose I don't need to explain why it's important to be on the same page with that. I think that makes sense for everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. Now, what? How far are we willing to take this?
Well, for me, I really enjoy playing the game, and I do often have free time in the evenings, but I do still have a life. Like, I am taking this seriously, but my life does come first. Whoa, voice crack.
Right? Um, to be fair, I took that as a baseline. I don't expect anyone here to put the game over much else,
Well, obviously, yeah.
right?
Yeah, you're
That's
missing
not.
the one person who does that. We're missing the one person who does that.
Glenn. What a Goomba.
I was okay. So where I'm going with this was more like what we do now. Are you eager? Are you looking forward to just sitting here for an hour talking about the game, or mainly listening to me talking about the game?
Yes.
Like,
Yes,
is
yeah.
that something you enjoy? Because if not, it's gonna be difficult. Right.
I have
Right.
no problem with it. Like,
Yeah,
at all.
I would say 100%. I mean, I'm the type of person, if I'm not playing the game, I'm researching the game, so basically like any type of it means nothing to sort of for me to sit here like 2 hours, and listen to you talk about the game. Like it's decent.
Yeah, I love it. I literally love it. I do it sometimes with Payne and with Glenn. About talking about the game and going all about fundamentals and composition, etc., etc. Just I have no problem, no problem
Alright.
with it at all.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So since I already explained, I'm able to do this about once a week, and that's what I would do with you. Just come in once a week, talk some theory with you. In my time off, maybe watch a VOD of a scrim and see how well you do. Is that fine with everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right, okay. Now, I suppose we're pretty much on the same page then. Then, let's start the actual topic. Let me see. Let me bring this up right here. Right. Can everyone see?
Yes.
All right.
I think so.
Yes.
I can see.
Right. Okay. So, let's say you're playing a scrim, right? What does your scrim consist of? What do you actually do in a scrim? What are what's it called? I don't know, so I just leave it at that.
Okay, Glenn is by the way coming in like 2 seconds.
Okay.
Right, so you're playing a scrim together, and okay, let's maybe start with that. What's the purpose of a scrim? Why do you scrim?
In my opinion, the scrim consists of practicing macro concepts. So you things like team compositions and etc. So the whole purpose of a scrim may be to like practice for a tournament, as in like the end game. But if it's just the scrim itself, you're usually practicing something specific, whether it would be like a team composition, or you're sort of working on some macro concept.
Right? Okay. Yeah. I just want to point out what I want to start with is the bare bones basic. Right? Rock bottom basic. That's why I'm starting with this. It's not because I assume you all have no idea. It's just to be sure we're on the same page again. Right?
Yes.
So, I suppose we established we play scrims to practice.
Yes.
Yes.
Why do we play scrims to practice? Why don't we just six stack to practice?
Because it's organized play versus organized play, and we can build up. There's no win or lose. There's nothing to lose basically in a scrim scenario. And people will say in a competitive game, because that's the most. Then you verse the most competitive version of opponents. You either verse like a competitive comp, like Hawk, Sigma Hawk, and some people get frustrated when they see their SR drop like 50, like 25, and get super motivated when they gain 200 a night, and the next night they lose 200, and like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, there is no win or loss material wise to scrim, in my if I have to say so.
Yeah, that's very good already. Now the simplest reason is as to why we practice in scrims is because it gives us the closest situation to reality in which we in what we practice for, right? When you play comp, you run into situations like the enemy team plays a very weird comp that you would never actually see in tournament play. Unorganized play is one argument as well. Now, how do you go about practicing in a scrim? That's the main question. What do you do so you actually practice?
Well, first you will establish some sort of communication structure, and then you try and follow that structure. So, for example, in a scrim, you might have like a designated ult tracker, target caller, fight planner, and you will try and play around those people and work on those skills.
What was the question again?
How do you go about practicing? What do you do in a scrim so you actually improve skills and you actually practice?
I try. For me, it's trying out. Yeah, trying out things. For example, people say that they experience that we're lacking in. For example, if you're lacking damage, I'm a support player. I deal more damage now. That's something I found like a very good way to like improve is seeing what other people think of your gameplay and see how you can like match it to make it your to make your own playstyle that's good for you, but also good for the rest of your team. Because, for example, heal botting the entirety of the time is not a solution.
I say.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, go ahead.
in my own scrims, right? The way I've always done it is you establish like a goal, like so it can be a long term, short term, but within. So let's just say one scrim, right? You've played 5 scrims as a team, or you've identified that you're weak at double shield, right?
Uh-huh.
You go into this scrum and you think, okay, we want to, or the next 2-3 scrims, we think, okay, let's try and practice our double shield as a team. Then within that double shield, you find, okay, well, our rotations are strong, however, mid fight we're poor. So you then narrow it down, and you keep narrowing it down until you basically iron out as many errors as you can.
Right. That's already very good. Now, I want to make a comparison. So basically, none of what you said is like wrong, but you have to think more basic, right? So I want to make a comparison. Do you play or have played any sport before, like tennis, soccer, or
Nope.
anything
Yes.
unfortunate? Okay.
Yes.
What have you played?
Ice hockey. basically everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've played rugby.
Sure. Let's just take
Yeah.
ice. Let's just take ice hockey. Let's just take ice hockey. Now, if you went to ice hockey training once or twice a week, you have a coach there, preferably,
Yes.
who tells you what to do. Now, let's say your ice hockey coach tells you you're not very good at shooting the goal. Is it called a goal as well? I think so.
Yes.
Okay. So you're really not good at hitting the goal with your puck. You're trying, but you can't aim. And let's say your coach told you nothing but that. He just said, mate, you're shit at hitting the goal.
Not
What
very
would you do? How would you go about improving that?
Yeah. Practice. Repeat.
But how do you practice? What do you do?
I mean,
can
I would ask for advice from my coach, actually.
Okay,
How's that
fair.
better?
But let's say, okay, yeah, but the
No, okay.
okay. The point of the question, or basically the point of my description was he tells you nothing but that. He doesn't give you any advice whatsoever. What would you do? How would you try to improve it?
I step in?
Sure, of course. Go ahead.
How I would do it is, then I'm gonna apply it as something I did. I would simulate a certain scenario for myself
Mm-hmm.
that could occur in a match, a tournament, or however you want to call it, and basically practice shooting the puck or the basketball or whatever sport or reference you want to use from certain distances, angles, from a running point, from a sprint, from a slower point of view, from standing still. Like, try to practice shooting and see if it's my accuracy that's off, or me holding the stick wrong, or me just not playing correctly or standing weird where I kind of make a slip and that fucks up my aim. Like, try to narrow it down by basically testing everything that could go wrong and see if it goes wrong or right. And if it goes wrong, then I kind of find the problem. If it makes sense.
Yeah, I would just yeah, I will also do that, but uh I would experiment scenarios, if you know what I mean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
take it back to, yeah, I played some sports, but it was not very team wise. It was judo, but like for example, in Overwatch, the moment I see something goes south, I'm not if I want to practice it. It's not that I'm going to be like, oh, I need to. For example, people said that to me that I needed to deal more damage. It was not that I was going to deal only damage or only healing. I wanted to like find a balance for me, and it was and experimenting in certain scenarios. If they run a very spam heavy comp, do I deal more damage or do I heal more? If they run a very divey comp, do I heal more or do I deal more damage? If they run brawl, do I heal more or do I deal more damage? Something like that. That's how I would mainly engage on the problem.
Right. Have you heard of the term practice drill before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of what you described, but not really. It's used, let's use this example again, shooting the puck on the goal. This is mainly used in team sports when you want many people to practice the same thing. You just line everyone up. Everyone takes a shot at the goal. Then they stand in the back of the line and repeat. You can do this yourself by just taking 5 pucks, shooting 5 pucks, collect them up again, go back, shoot 5 pucks. At the same time, the goalie, I don't know, could practice holding the puck, right? Why? Or let's make another example. Let's make another example before I ask this. Let's say, same scenario. Your coach said you're shit at aiming at the goal, but we are now going to play a game of hockey together with the entire team. And while you do that, you try to practice shooting the goal. Why would he prefer the drill over doing what I just explained?
Maybe you're not comfortable doing that, and it's gonna be a step up all of a sudden. If
Okay.
I had to say something about it, like that's the first thing that came to mind.
That's very good. Any other idea?
So when you drill something, it's something that you can practice solo. So you know, if you was in a team environment, like in this hockey example, you would need a full team to compete, right, or to scrim hockey essentially, right? But when you drill, it's something that you can just practice solo. So and it's like a micro improvement. Something is that you can just work on for X amount of time per day before a match or whatever. And basically, you know, you don't need a team or other external factors. It's just you.
Okay. Yeah. What you're saying is right, yeah, but not realistic because teams tend to do drills as well. Like an entire team would prefer to do a drill to practice some things like that over the other example with playing an entire game. Any other ideas?
In a drill, you have a specific. In a drill, you have a more specific mindset on focusing on the one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in a game, you have to also put other factors to use, like a defender, like I don't know, a goalie, like I don't know. So there's more than one thing that can that's out of your control that can quote unquote fuck up the shot. If it makes sense.
Okay. I want everyone to keep in mind what he just said because it becomes very relevant in a few minutes when I keep explaining, right? The simple reason why you would prefer a drill is just because it's more efficient. All you have to do to become better at shooting the goal is shoot the goal. When you just stand there, do a drill, you can have more tries shooting at the goal than in an entire game where there's other factors where you can have only so many shots at the goal. Let's say in a game you have 5, but in the same amount of time this match takes, you could take 20 shots by yourself. And your efficiency in practicing is basically quadrupled.
Right.
So why am I telling you this about practice drills? And why did I give you this weird example about playing a match? And trying to practice while doing that?
is because a scrim is more comparable to a drill than an actual competitive match.
The other way around.
The other way around.
Yes. It's because in video games, or in esports, you can't really have practice drills. There is only so much you can practice in a drill. A drill is the most efficient way of practicing anything, any skill. But you can't realistically do that. Let's say you want to practice staging as a dive comp before your team fights. You can't do that dry without any enemies. That's just not realistic. The enemy is going to try to... What's the word?
Gonna try to deny you?
Yeah, basically. It's trying to deny your setup. So you have to practice with that denial to get an actual realistic situation in which you can practice. That's where this other example comes in. In order to efficiently practice during a scrim, you have to basically do what the second example was. Play a regular game, but while you're doing that, you have to practice a certain thing. And what he explained is exactly the sentence I wanted you to keep in mind, is explained unbelievably well why that's difficult. Because there is just other things you have to do as well. And other things keep you distracting from what you're trying to practice. Now, the main purpose of what I'm trying to explain to you now is how to make your practice more efficient. It's all about efficiency. All right? So how do we practice in an ongoing scrim game? Wait, how do I... okay, wait. Right. So, you choose a thing you want to practice on. Right? As in the drill example. You choose, okay, in this scrim, we want to try and practice target focus. We want to try and practice rotations as a brawl. We want to try and practice staging as a dive composition. We want to try and practice ult tracking and reacting to enemy ultimate. Stuff like that. You simply choose, and then during the scrim, you just do that one thing. Right? Just that singular thing. Now, obviously, you can't, realistically, so all of your attention has to go to that one thing. So, what you're trying to do is to force the situation that you want to try to practice as often as possible. Now, maybe you can tell me how that would affect the game, the flow of the game. What would happen when you force just one specific thing to happen the entire time?
Is you're gonna know how the certain responses and how to basically you're gonna know how they will answer, and over time you will develop a way on how to answer their answer. To say it, I hope I'm not too confusing. Like have an answer for what they're trying to counter, how they try to counterplay.
That's not where I'm going with this.
you're gonna if you do only one thing every day, the chances of you mastering it, like the chances of you mastering it against something that's, for example, a counterplay to it, um, is much higher because you're more comfortable playing it. If you only do, like, for example, we this week we do only brawl, and next week we're going only ball, then we're most likely to fuck ourselves up than the enemy, because we're fucking with our own brains at that point.
That's also true, but also not quite where I'm going with this. So let's take the hockey example again, right? Let's say you as an individual have the goal of practicing hitting your target, so the goal, in an ongoing game. So you're trying to force getting the opportunity to shoot at the goal, which then in turn makes you do plays that are not that beneficial to the entire team, or rather winning the game. So when you are in a situation where you theoretically could shoot the goal, but a better play would be to pass it to a teammate because he's in a much better position to actually hit the goal, you would try to hit the goal yourself, because that is what you're trying to practice. So what I was trying to say is, when you're focusing on one thing, you're making everything else worse. Oop.
I get it. I get it.
Right. Now, how does that make sense? Your skill playing Overwatch is not just a single skill, because instead it consists of many different skills. Right? Let's visualize that by this graph. Right? Let's say actually, let's do it this way. These are your skills. Right? And these are different things. Let's say this is aiming and positioning and using your abilities and communication and whatever these two are. And together, they form your overall skill set playing Overwatch. Now, as you might know, you are better at certain skills than others. I bet off the head you could tell me something you're good at and something you're not so good at. Now, there's a simple saying, basically a quote that I tell everyone I coach and everyone who I explain this concept to. It goes, when you're trying to practice, you're not trying to win. And when you're trying to win, you're not trying to practice. You can't do both at the same time.
I get that.
Basically, what I explained here already.
Trying to practice things, it's necessary to fail. It's not necessarily like you need to fail, but you need to take defeat as most likely as a victory, because you're gonna learn something from it. At least that's
Not
how
quite.
I get it.
I'm giving you a more, let's say, scientific answer to that. Or that's actually the case. So when you're trying to win, you're trying to be the best overall player possible. So you're trying to use all of your skills to their maximum potential. Right? But when you're trying to practice, as we already know, we're trying to focus on just one of them. Now, what happens when you try to focus on just one of them is that you automatically lose focus on the others, granted you do it properly. So, let's say you were working on this. Let's say this is your positioning. Let's say it's positioning. When you're trying to, while you play, actively think and reconsider your positioning. During that time, you will artificially increase how good you are at that skill. Simply said, because you're putting more thoughts and more effort into it. And what happens then is because you put less effort into caring about the others, is they will artificially decrease. Because you're not really thinking about them anymore. Right? When you're thinking about your positioning, you're trying to think about, is this a good positioning? Or position. What can I do from here? Can I do my job? Am I in danger? Is there another position that would be more beneficial? You're thinking about these things, but you're not actively thinking about, let's say you're a Flexiport player and you play Ana. You're not thinking about, when's the best time to use my grenade in this composition, against that composition? When's the best timing to use my sleep dart against the composition I have? You need that energy to do this. And so what happens, because every other skill, except for that one that you're trying to practice, gets worse, is your overall skill gets worse. When you're properly practicing, it's very likely that you'll lose, because you'll be just an overall worse player. But that's okay, because especially in a scrim, as I don't know who it was, but someone explained, you don't lose anything. So it doesn't matter if you lose. And even when you lose something, so in ranked, for example, doesn't really matter, because you gain something more valuable, and that's skill. Your SR is, what's the word? I can't find of a proper word. But
What's the number?
No. Oh, I got it. Your SR is fluid. It changes all the time. But when you raise this bar, it'll most likely stay. SR you can get rid of quite quickly, as probably all of you know that have been on a loss streak. Getting rid of your actual skill is quite hard to do. So in the long run, getting the skill is vastly more valuable. And just to be clear, the things I explained here, they are, I explained it in the sense of like the entire team, but everything I explained you can use in individual practice as well. You can apply this when you're practicing just by yourself. That's why I pointed out like SR and stuff. This is basic concepts and they apply to team play, so what you do in scrims and what you do by yourself in ranked as well. Right, so until here, does everyone understand? Does anyone have any question?
Nope. At least I don't.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a bare bones. This is how you go about practicing. What you do is you like this is what you can. This is not much theory anymore. This is what I would like you to actually do. Like you meet like 10. Oh. Right. So you meet like 10 minutes before the scrum in order to do this. You decide what you want to practice. And for starters, it does not matter what you want to practice. This in the beginning, it really isn't that important. Just make sure you choose something simple, so it's easier. And then you discuss. You try to specify what you want to practice on, and that should be like the main point. And I'll come back to this in a bit. You really have to specify what you want to practice on. You talk about what everyone's job is in that sense. And you discuss how you're trying to actually execute it, which basically means you talk about what comps do we want to play, what maps do we want to play, and especially how do we go about forcing the situation that we want to practice, right? And then you basically do it. This is maybe a stupid step, but this is the hardest. Like this is, I don't expect you to be able, straight up be able to do this. I don't, because it's unrealistic, and you shouldn't either. You should not expect this, like the entire concept even, to just work immediately. It seems simple, but this is incredibly hard to do properly. So, you, best case, remind yourself what you discussed on, basically. So, what you're trying to practice, how you're doing that, what everyone's role is, and the most important thing is attention or concentration. And then at the end, after the scrim is over, you discuss again, but you basically you do a little feedback basically, and you ask yourself, okay, how well did we execute? Basically, you ask how well did we execute, because realistically you can only tell for yourself, because it's about keeping up your attention, and you can't really tell how well the others are doing that. Right. This makes sense? This seems, or does that seem
Yes.
simple enough so that you could try to apply this next scrim you play?
Yes.
Right. Now I want to talk about these two words. Or what do I start with? I start with attention because otherwise we start losing yours. Attention or concentration is what you need in order to do this properly. I could go in detail, but no one wants to hear that, so we break it down very simply. Your attention is like a resource. Like, it works like Diva's defense matrix. Okay? You use it, it diminishes, and then it fills itself up. But very slowly. Depends on what you do, right? But there will be some point where you run out of that where you run out of attention, and you're not able to focus anymore. Okay, that's all you have to know about how that works. When you reach that point where you run out of that resource, there is no point in continuing, because you cannot execute properly anymore. You need attention to do that. And it's absolutely fine to stop the scrim when the people who are required to execute run out of attention. Because in that case, you can't properly practice anymore. And that's okay if you run out of attention after an hour. If you play 2 maps and run out of attention, it's okay. Just stop. If you're trying to keep going just because, there's no point, and you'll not really learn anything because you don't have any attention anymore to learn something. Or to apply, basically. And you learn in the process. You learn by doing. Makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Can I say something about this?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I, in the beginning, after some talking with Monty, Painkiller and all, some of you guys may remember this. I basically tried to do everything at once. Like, I tried to peel, damage deal, create space, like everything at once. And it was my attention, basically. I used my attention. Basically, see, to put your defense matrix metaphor as an example, I basically held my DM ups in such a short period of time for so long that I had certain peaks where I knew what I was doing, and certain things where I was just quote unquote autopiloting, because it was basically like I've been doing it for so long, trying to do everything at once, that it kind of grew as a habit with certain quote unquote backup, that if I lose the attention to, for example, block a shatter, I play split from my team. Like I basically open up. I don't play in front of my team anymore. I basically play to the side of them. And that's usually, I don't know why I keep doing it, but it opens up their shadow potential, and it also opens up for me. But it's kind of like picking the worst scenario for yourself and trying to work with it. Um, and last, I don't know if it was last scrim or the scrim before that, I wasn't feeling like me, like fully attention me, and you said like, yeah, you're not learning anything. Like if you don't have your full attention anymore. Well, I didn't do it for myself. I was like, I'm a team player. This is something I was like, I can give up now, or I can keep playing and basically play for the team. And that's when I go a little bit further to the background, communication wise and what's it called? Communication wise and strategy wise. Because at those moments, I'm kind of hard focusing on me trying to do my job as best as I can, even though I know I'm not feeling my 100%. And I don't want to give my I never give my quote unquote 100% because I know my 100% is a lot to deal with in competitive play. Because I basically, if I have to give it a number from how I've played so far, I've played like at like 80% of what I'm capable of and comfortable with. If I play at 100, I will know one thing for sure: my supports are gonna have a fucking heart attack by the end of the evening. Because I'm gonna make them sweat to keep me alive. If that makes sense.
Silence.
Silence. A painful silence.
Yeah.
Hello?
I think you
Anyone?
died.
Sorry, that was...
Oh.
Okay, I apologize. It very much sounded like you said that to your teammates.
Oh yeah, it was towards my teammates.
Okay.
I already said it mostly towards my teammates, but also I'm gonna reinforce your statement with an example. What I think they know of, if it makes sense. Like they know the effect it has when your attention goes down.
I mean,
so I kind of used myself as an example, if it makes sense.
Okay, yeah. The effect of what happens when your attention runs out is very simple. It's just you play on autopilot and you don't think about what you're doing anymore. You just do what you're used to. So in that sense, it's kind of... I'm gonna be honest, I didn't understand fully what you were trying to explain. But the part I did understand sounded very much like what I just explained, in a little bit shorter and more general. Right.
Yeah.
So one last topic. When you're talking about what you want to practice, you have to be as specific and basic as possible. And we can do this right now. Give me an example for what you guys would like to work on as a team.
Executing a ball comp properly.
Well, yeah, but I would say more specific than that is just to be on the same page with communication. So things following target calls and
that's right.
Getting better.
That's exactly where I'm trying to go with this, right? So let's leave it at this statement. When you're, I'm just using this as an example. You can decide by yourself. I do recommend you deciding not now, but when all of the team members are there. I just use this as an example. you said, okay, we want to improve our ball comp and how we execute that, right? So next step is what is required to properly execute it. He said comms and right? For example, this. This is so. First of all, just this is an absurdly specific topic that I wouldn't recommend you trying to work on because it has so many things that go into it. So not just comms and coordination, but also understanding how the composition works, understanding what your win condition is, understanding how you have to stage, understanding how you fight, understanding like every individual player, what their role is respectively to what the team is trying to achieve. It's just a lot together, but basically you think, what do we need in order to properly do this? So we need comms, right? So next step.
Rotation.
What type of comms do we need?
Rotation.
What?
Primarily rotations.
Yeah.
Ball
Tempo
comp is all
comms?
about rotations.
You mean like
What?
tempo calls or positioning calls, target calls?
Basically, yeah. What has to be said in order for you to be on the same page when you're playing a ball comp? It's just, I don't know,
So we need like
words.
target calls.
I think you
Right.
mean
It's just
like the call, can we go in?
it's
Is that
I
what
just
you mean, or?
I just use this as an example. You don't really all of this has to happen. So all of this has to happen. Just where I'm trying to go with this, try to narrow it down to the most simple and rudimentary thing, and then you work on that first.
So
Right?
setup.
No, basically, someone said target calls as an example. It as part of comms, and then right, what do we need in order to properly target call? Right, we need to assign one player to be the main target caller, and we need the others to echo that target call. That has to happen, and that's basically the bottom. And then you start with just that. Assign a target caller, a main target caller, and you could even go a step further and say what specific words do these people have to say for it to become a target call? And then you work on just that. And then you work your way up. Once you nail down how you target call, you can work on other calls like your setup, your staging. And once you're done with that, you work on combining both. And once you're done with that, you start working at all the other 15,000 things you need in order to properly execute a ball comp. And once you have all of that, then you finally work on executing a ball comp. Make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Make your goal and your practice topic basically as simple as possible. Which you should do in general, but is specifically important for what I want you to do in the coming week or when you play next time until we see each other again, right? I would like you to try this, right? I want you to try to apply creating a proper practice scrum. And mind you, it's not about that you actually learn and get better at what you're deciding on practicing. The very first step is about seeing how well you can execute this. This right here. Like how well you can execute this. How long you can keep your attention up before it runs out. How specific you're able to be with what you're trying to practice. Right? This is what I want you to do. Sounds good? And then we discuss how well that works when we meet next time. And if it doesn't, I suppose I have to support you a little bit by being actually there and watching you from and give you a little bit input.
So I have a quick question. If we if we follow this checklist in our next scrim and we try to, work on our comp, work on our calls, if we win or lose the scrim doesn't really matter. But how do we, sort of like evaluate, as to like if we're on the right path? It's like, will you be reviewing our comms? It's like, how do we gauge that we're actually getting better at the thing we want to work on? If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So most things it's right that you don't evaluate by winning or losing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Most things aren't that tangible, right? You can't measure how well you set up for a dive. But by making it as specific as possible, you're still not really able to measure it, but it just becomes more tangible by the eye test, right? So let's take a very simple example. Let's say your main support is trying to work on ult tracking. And the ult tracking is supposed to happen in between every fight. Then you can watch your review and say, okay, there were 3 situations where there was enough time and enough space for the main support to give information about the enemy's ultimates, but he didn't do it. That's your way of figuring out how well you did. And in the best case, you do this immediately. And if it comes to very let's say advanced things, then you have to do it in a review. And And how you spot these things and analyze how well you do that, we'll talk about at a later point in time. Right?
Fair. Okay.
Right? Okay.
Alright.
Any other questions? Or something to add? Something you maybe didn't really understand and want me to explain again?
Do we need to like communicate towards if for example in a one-on-one coaching session with someone they say like yeah, you should have done this or deal more damage or play more aggressive, and for example we're working on positioning, is that something that we need to communicate with you and then the team or just the team?
What? Sorry. Is it like if you get one-on-one coaching by someone else,
Yes.
are you asking if I would like if you told me?
Yeah, more like if it comes, for example, we're practicing. For example, we take this scrim, we're working on positioning, for example,
Yeah.
and I position myself all of a sudden very aggressive because one of the one-on-one coaches said I need to play more aggressive and take more aggressive angles. That means taking aggressive angles and position yourself more aggressive. Is that something I only need to communicate with, for example, with Payne because he's the team captain, or just only with you and not with the team or something like that?
Can I step in? If I have to, it is my opinion. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but if a one-on-one coach says something that quote unquote affects the uh, harmony or however you want to call it in a team, like for example aggressive positioning, because you can't position aggressively if we don't play aggressive, because then you'll die. Basically, aggression meets aggression. You can't play defensively with aggression because that's how you get rolled. Um, the thing is, um, I think it's not necessarily tell one person. I think it's more a thing of tell the entire team. If
Yeah, that's
it's
what I mean with talking with Payne.
Oh, I thought you just meant paint specifically, only paint. My bad.
Oh yeah, so far every time I for example I made a call out that I needed to do more damage and I did it just in team call. So it's not a specific person, but it's more of a question: do I need to include you in the in it? Like, is that something that needs to be going on just in the team, or do I need to keep you up to date as well? If you know what I mean.
I'm struggling to understand, to be fair. Like I'm working out. I mean, I kind of get what you're trying to say. But I'm working out why you should tell me.
Yeah, you have certain
Um
coaches who prefer to like know almost everything. That's more it. Like, well, everything that's going on inside the team and what kind of strat you're working on as an individual.
okay. Right. I got it. I got it now. Yeah. No, you don't have to. Um what I want to do is things like this, what I did today. in the type of way I did it today. It'll take some time to go over the basics, the very basics. It'll take some time until we get to actual gameplay. I'm gonna tell you straight up. It's possible that we will go for a month now not really talking about gameplay. And since I'm starting at the very bottom, that's not really regarding actual mechanical play, which you would talk about with a one-on-one coach. Right? So there is a point. Let's say I don't know how you do that. Like if you let's say you had regular coaching every week with a certain person, and they tell you, I want you in the next week to work on this specific thing. You are free to do that as long as it doesn't clash with what the team is trying to work on. Right? So I give a very, to be fair, stupid and dumbed down example, but it's just when your one-on-one coach tells you to be more aggressive, but we as a team try to be more passive, then please don't, and stick with the team and
Oh yeah, in that case, yeah.
be all
like,
together,
if
right?
If
That's
we want to work on like positioning in general, just not
right.
specifically aggressive or defensive, like.
And that's
If my
the
coach, if my coach, like the one-on-one coach, says that I need to play more aggressive, and we're not as a team making an like specific cut to we're making playing aggressive or the defensive, then it is like that's kind of the gray zone, I think.
I mean,
Like,
even in that case, you don't really have to tell me. In that case, you'd have to tell him that you can't really do that because your team is practicing something else.
yeah, that's no problem.
Right? So
Yeah.
I don't really have to know.
I
Not I don't at least right now I don't see an actual reason.